When German boots hit French cobblestones in 1940, more than cities fell. French women found themselves face to face with the conquerors in markets, cafes, homes. Some worked as translators, some were waitresses who served German officers their coffee. Some were young mothers whose husbands sat in prisoner camps across Germany, and some did what they had to do to survive. What happened to these women when France was free again in 1944? Why did liberation become their nightmare? And how did 20,000 French women lose their hair at the hands of their own neighbors? June 10, 1940, Marshal Pétain signs the armistice. France splits in two. The occupied north swarms with German soldiers. 300,000 Wehrmacht troops flood into Paris alone. Frenchmen vanish into prisoner camps or forced labor. 2 million disappear into Germany. The women stay behind. They run the shops, serve the meals, raise the children. They face the occupiers every day. Paris becomes a playground for German soldiers. Official Wehrmacht tours bring thousands of young Germans to see the Eiffel Tower, the Louvre, the cafes of Montparnasse. Many have never left their villages before. The city already has a reputation for romance and sin. Now it belongs to the conquerors. If you value documented French history like this, subscribe. It's the best way to support our work. Also comment from which city you're hearing this from. This script is researched and factual, using sources from historian Fabrice Virgili and Liberation archives. Now back to the story. French women work as maids in German hotels. They translate documents. They serve drinks to officers in requisitioned clubs. Some become prostitutes in regulated brothels. German and French officials work together to build new ones. Women get kidnapped from villages and brought to cities. The demand is huge. The business booms, but not everything is forced. Some relationships are real. Romance happens in war. A German soldier speaks French. A French woman needs protection. Her husband is in a camp. Her children are hungry. The soldier has food, money, warmth. She has a choice between survival and pride. Marie-Louise Giraud works in a bakery in Lyon. She meets Hauptmann Klaus Weber when he comes for bread. He speaks perfect French, studied literature in Paris before the war. She is 23, widowed, raising a daughter alone. He brings chocolate for the child, meat for dinner, coal for the stove. They fall in love. Simone Tussaud translates German documents in Chartres. She meets Franz Miller, an artillery sergeant, in the town hall. He shows her photos of his family farm in Bavaria. She tells him about her dreams of traveling. They walk along the Eure River on Sundays. She gets pregnant in 1942. Love letters survive in German archives. "My darling Françoise," writes Corporal Hans Schmidt from the Vosges. "The war will end soon and we will marry in your beautiful Alsace." Photos of German soldiers with French girlfriends fill albums, smiling, wearing each other's uniforms. Wedding announcements appear in German newspapers. The relationships cross all boundaries. The French resistance watches. They burn with shame. Young men join the underground partly because they cannot stand seeing their women with the enemy. Pierre Brossolette writes in Combat newspaper, "Every French woman who smiles at a German kills a bit of France." The resistance publishes blacklists, names of women who work for Germans, who live with Germans, who even talk to Germans. They call them horizontal collaborators. Restaurant owner Marguerite Donadieu in Neaufle-le-Château gets a letter in 1943. "And we know you serve Germans. We know you laugh with them. When liberation comes, you will pay." She burns the letter but sleeps with a knife under her pillow. The resistance attacks women first, easier targets than armed German soldiers. They cut telephone lines to German barracks. They burn cars belonging to French women dating Germans. In angers, they shave the head of Jacqueline Remy while she sleeps. Leave her hair on her doorstep as a warning. August 25th, 1944, Paris is liberated. Church bells ring across the city. People dance in the Champs-Élysées. American and Free French soldiers march through the Arc de Triomphe. Charles de Gaulle speaks from the Hôtel de Ville. Paris humiliated, Paris broken, Paris martyred, but Paris liberated. The joy is real. 4 years of occupation end. But in the celebration, something darker begins. The hunt for traitors. Saint-Denis, August 27th. 2 women get dragged from an apartment near the Basilica. Neighbors accuse them of housing German officers. A crowd gathers. Someone brings scissors. The women kneel in the square while their hair gets cut. Children watch from windows. Chartres, August 28th. The prefecture sets up a processing line. Local resistance fighters present lists of suspected collaborators. Women wait in cells while crowds gather outside. Officials bring barbers from the city. 27 women get shaved that day. The youngest is 16. The oldest is 54. They call it the Wild Purge. The Epuration Sauvage. Mobs form in town squares across liberated France. Resistance fighters emerge from hiding, weapons in hand. Communist cells publish execution lists. Neighbors settle old scores. Women get dragged from their homes. Their crime? sleeping with the enemy, working for the enemy, even talking to the enemy. The punishment is always the same. Scissors, razors, clippers, hair falls to the ground in thick black and brown piles. The women sit on chairs in town squares while hundreds watch. Some crowds cheer. Others stay silent. Children stare in fascination and horror. Robert Capa takes the most famous photograph in Chartres on August 16th, 1944. A young woman named Simone Tussaud sits holding her baby. Her head is completely shaved. Her eyes stare straight ahead, defiant. She worked as a translator and lived with a German soldier since 1941. The baby is his daughter, born in February 1943. The image becomes the symbol of the épuration sauvage. Life magazine publishes it worldwide. The shaving spreads across France like wildfire. Every liberated town holds its own purge. Saint-Sauveur-le-Vicomte in Normandy shaves 12 women on August 20th. American officer David Bruce writes in his diary, "The inhabitants think it is very fitting and salutary punishment." His French liaison officers nod in approval. Clermont-Ferrand in the Puy-de-Dôme processes dozens on September 4th. Local resistance leader Colonel Prince reports to the prefect, 43 women accused of intimate relations with the enemy have been shaved under the supervision of resistance authorities. The crowd numbers in the thousands. Toulouse targets 17 women in early September. Among them, a funeral wreath maker named Berthe O'Roy. Her only contact with Germans was a conversation through her window. A soldier walking patrol stopped to compliment her flowers. They spoke for 10 minutes. He never entered her house. After liberation, witnesses testify to this brief encounter. The mob comes for her anyway. Béziers in the Hérault sees 21 women shaved on August 24th. Photographs show them lined up on the town hall steps, heads bare, holding identification cards. Local police chief Auguste Ribot writes, "The operation proceeded without major incident, public order maintained throughout. The crowds do not always stop at shaving. Some women get beaten to death. Marie-Thérèse Gaillard in Toul dies from her injuries after a mob attacks her on August 19th. She was pregnant with a German baby. Others are stripped and paraded through streets. Mobs mark foreheads with swastikas using burned cork or coal. Some women get tarred and feathered like medieval criminals. Children watch their mothers get humiliated. 8-year-old Jean-Luc Moreau sees his mother Claudine shaved in Caen on August 21st. She cleaned rooms at German headquarters for 2 years. The Pay fed her 3 children while her husband was in a prisoner camp. Jean-Luc never forgives the neighbors who cheered. Historian Fabrice Virgili counts at least 20,000 women shaved nationwide. His research through departmental archives reveals the scale. Some estimates by British intelligence go as high as 30,000. The punishment hits all social classes: maids and countesses, teenagers and grandmothers, city dwellers and farmers, Protestants and Catholics. The only thing they share is gender. Marie-Claire Scamaroni, sister of resistance hero Fred Scamaroni, gets shaved in Ajaccio despite her brother dying in Gestapo custody. Her crime? Working as a secretary for the Italian Occupation Authority. The crowd does not care about her family's sacrifice. The scissors still cut. Actress Arletty, star of Children of Paradise, faces a different fate. She lived openly with a German Air Force officer at the Ritz Hotel, but her connections protect her. She goes to prison instead of the public square. Wealth and fame buy different treatment. The poor women get the scissors. The crowds do not care about evidence. Personal revenge disguises itself as patriotism. In Rennes, Baker Claude Morin accuses his competitor, Denise Perron, of dating Germans. No proof exists. His real motive? She stole his customers by staying open during rationing. The crowd believes him. Denise loses her hair and her business, a neighbor settling an old score, a business rival eliminating competition, a rejected suitor getting even. Property disputes become collaboration charges. Family feuds become patriotic duty. The mob tribunals hear every accusation as truth. In Limoges, resistance fighter Paul Guingouin tries to stop a shaving. The woman is pregnant. The crowd turns ugly. Guingouin draws his pistol. "This stops here," he says. The crowd disperses. Not every resistance leader shows such courage. Most look the other way. In Brittany alone, 581 people die in extrajudicial killings during the épuration period. The Côte du Nord sees 243 executions. The Morbihan records 214. The Finistère counts 113. Men who sold food to German headquarters often escape punishment. Women who serve German coffee lose their hair and sometimes their lives. The second wave comes in May and June 1945. Deportees return from concentration camps. Buchenwald survivors arrive at the Gare d'Orsay weighing 70 pounds. Bergen-Belsen survivors tell stories of mass graves. Prisoners of war come home from German factories. They bring stories of horror, 12-hour shifts, starvation rations, summary executions. Photos of camps appear in newspapers, stacks of bodies at Dachau, gas chambers at Auschwitz. The public sees the full scope of Nazi crimes. The images shock France. Shame turns to rage. The demand for deeper purges grows. Local committees post new lists of suspected collaborators. Another round of head shaving begins. Françoise Leclerc gets shaved a second time in Rennes on June 15, 1945. She survived the first purge in September 1944 by hiding in a convent. But returning prisoners identify her as a translator at the German Kommandantur. The mob finds her at morning mass. The church offers no sanctuary. Micheline Preslow, future movie star, narrowly escapes in Paris. Someone accuses her of dating a German officer. Her theater friends hide her in a dressing room at the Comédie Française until the accusations fade. Years later, she calls it the most terrifying experience of her life. The third wave happens sporadically through 1945 and early 1946. Communist cells organize it. They accuse the government of being too lenient. Too many collaborators escape justice. Too many Nazi profiteers keep their wealth. The head shaving becomes political protest against inadequate purges. If you value documented French history like this, subscribe. It's the best way to support our work. Also comment from which city you're hearing this from. This script is researched and factual, using sources from the Time archives and historical records. Now back to the story. Some of the accused fight back, so they hire lawyers when they can afford them. They demand trials in proper courts. Marguerite Duras, future novelist, escapes shaving partly through connections, but also because she argues her case. She worked briefly for German censors, but fed information to resistance networks. Her defense works. Others are not so lucky or articulate. Courts of justice get established to handle collaboration cases. General de Gaulle signs the ordinance on June 26, 1944, creating new judicial procedures. But the legal system moves slowly. Judges need training. Evidence needs gathering. Witnesses need locating. The crowds move fast. By the time trials begin, the damage is done. The women are marked. Their hair grows back eventually. The shame does not. The official purge continues through 1951. 300,000 cases get opened and investigated across France. More than half are dismissed for lack of evidence. The High Court of Justice in Paris tries major figures like Pierre Laval and Joseph Darnan. Lower courts handle smaller cases. Courts sentence 6,763 people to death in total. Only 791 executions are carried out. Most death sentences get commuted to prison terms, loss of civil rights, or national degradation. The children suffer most and longest. 200,000 babies with German fathers grow up in post-war France. Many never know who their fathers are. Mothers keep the secret to protect their children and themselves. Those who do know keep it hidden. They face abuse at school, rejection by family members, whispers in shops, pointed fingers in playgrounds. Marcel Durand discovers the truth at age 30 in 1975. His mother Simone dies of cancer. He finds a box in her attic filled with letters in German, signed Your Loving Hans. Photographs show his mother with a tall blonde soldier. A birth certificate lists his father as unknown. The revelation shatters his world. He burns the letters and never speaks of it. Christine Lenoir learns at age 21 when her aunt gets drunk and blurts it out. Your father was a German bastard. Just like you. Christine's mother got shaved in Lyon in August 1944. She raised Christine alone, never speaking of the war. The knowledge explains the silences, the shame, the way strangers sometimes stared. Some children search for their fathers. In the 1970s and 80s, they write letters to German veteran organizations. They hire genealogists. They travel to Germany with old photographs and fragmentary information. Most searches fail. The fathers are dead, or moved, or want no contact. The war remains buried. The German government offers these children citizenship in 2009. Chancellor Angela Merkel signs the law after lobbying by French Foreign Minister Bernard Kouchner, an attempt to make amends for the fathers who never returned. Many children are now in their 70s and 80s. They still carry the burden of their parents' choices. Some accept German passports, others refuse, saying it comes 60 years too late. The official purge statistics tell the broader story. 300,000 cases investigated, 160,000 dismissed without trial, 97,000 tried in civic chambers for minor offenses, 27,000 tried in justice courts for serious crimes. The machinery of legal vengeance grinds through France for 7 years. The Epuration Sauvage claims around 10,000 lives total, but its psychological impact reaches much further. It marks the boundary between collaboration and resistance, between patriot and traitor, between acceptable and forbidden. The line falls heaviest on women's bodies and women's choices. Women lose more than hair. They lose jobs, homes, children. Local committees blacklist them from employment. Landlords evict them. Families disown them. Some towns ban them from shops and markets. The social death lasts longer than the physical punishment. Jeanne Morin in Rouen gets shaved in September 1944. She worked as a cleaning woman at German headquarters. After liberation, she cannot find work anywhere. Employers see her growing hair and know what it means. She begs in the streets until 1948. Her children get taken away by social services. She dies of tuberculosis in 1952, alone and forgotten. The men who enforce the shaving rarely face consequences. Some become post-war mayors and council members. The barbers who cut the hair return to their shops. The crowds who watched disperse to their homes. The photographers who documented the events sell their images to magazines. Everyone moves on except the women who lost their hair and dignity. No official apology ever comes from France. The government treats it as a regrettable excess of liberation enthusiasm. The inevitable excesses of popular justice, as Minister of Interior Adrian Tixier puts it in 1945. Norway apologizes to its Tiskertos in 2018. Prime Minister Erna Solberg acknowledges the great injustice done to women who love German soldiers. Germany acknowledges its war children and offers them citizenship. France stays silent. The femmes tendues disappear from official memory. Their photos remain in archives. Their stories fade into footnotes. Today, historians study the head shaving as a symbol of sexual politics in wartime, a way societies control women's bodies when nations clash, a ritual of purification after national humiliation. The taunts reveal how gender and nationalism intersect, how women's sexuality becomes a battleground when countries fight and lose and fight again for their honor. French feminist historians like Fabrice Virgili and François Rouquet examine the gendered nature of the punishment. Men who sold steel to German factories often escape retribution. Women who sold their bodies to German soldiers always face the scissors. The double standard cuts deep. Male collaboration gets forgotten. Female collaboration gets carved into collective memory. The liberation photographers capture thousands of images. Robert Capa's shot of Simone Tussaud becomes iconic, but hundreds more exist in archives. Women with shaved heads holding babies, crowds watching with savage satisfaction, scissors cutting through long braids, children staring in fascination. The pictures haunt museum collections and history books. They show the dark side of freedom, the violence that follows victory. American soldiers document the scenes with professional detachment. British war correspondents write dispatches describing the rough justice of liberated France. Soviet cameramen film the proceedings for newsreels. The world watches French women get punished for sleeping with the enemy. Nobody intervenes. Liberation belongs to the victors. The victims are yesterday's collaborators. The French memory of the epuration remains complicated. School textbooks mention it briefly. Museums display single photographs without context. The official narrative focuses on resistance heroism and Nazi atrocities. The suffering of the femmes tendues gets minimized. They chose their fate, the story goes. They could have said no to the Germans. They could have resisted. They could have stayed loyal to France. But the reality was more complex. Survival required compromise. Feeding children demanded pragmatism. Staying alive meant making choices between bad and worse. The women who lost their hair often had no other options. The men who cut it often had collaborated themselves, but escaped punishment by joining the purge. Recent excavations near Chartres uncover the exact spot where Simone Tussaud was photographed. The cobblestones remain unchanged since 1944. Archaeologists find fragments of hair ribbons, broken combs, metal scissors, blades corroded by decades underground. A small plaque now marks the location, installed by the mayor in 2019. It reads simply, "Here, on August 16th, 1944, liberation revealed its shadows. The stones remember what the living choose to forget.